Hello and welcome. We're going to get started on the webinar in a few minutes. We have a few more people signing in here, so we're going to give it to about 2 or 3 minutes after the hour. Thank you. We'll talk to you in a minute. Thank you to those who are just joining the webinar. We're going to get started in about 1 minute. Hello and welcome to Itenov Healthcare Solutions webinar. In light of recent events, we appreciate you making the time to attend our webinar today. We're excited to be presenting a great way to have access to patient clinical data during downtime using ChartGuard. My name is Joseph Schultz, and I'm the Vice President of Product Solutions here at Itenov. I'd like to take a moment and explain the process for today's presentation. First, I'd like to mention that this webinar will be recorded and we will send out copies along with the slides. Next, for those of you who aren't familiar with Itenov, I'd like to share a bit of who we are with you. We specialize specifically in NextGen healthcare. We're good at getting data into, out of, around, and through NextGen. Our goal in life is to make delighted clients by helping you get the absolute most out of your NextGen software investment. We're passionate about providing solutions for our healthcare provider partners, which in turn help you to improve patient care, enhance the patient experience, and maintain a financially healthy practice. To sum it up, we do everything NextGen. We have 2 upcoming educational webinars. The first is on lessons learned as a NextGen beta site, and the next one will be a deep dive into using the transaction approval process in NextGen. If you'd like to find out more about upcoming educational and product webinars, please visit the Events and Education page on our website to register. So back to today's presentation. At the end of the presentation, we'll open up the floor to questions from you. We'll answer the questions at the end. However, you may type them into the questions area of the webinar control panel whenever they occur to you. And finally, for audio clarity purposes, everyone's phone will remain muted throughout the entire webinar. If you experience audio issues, please use the chat box to let us know so we can resolve them. And again, questions may be typed into the questions box at any time. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce my co-presenter. Tom Seco is Itenov's Business Development Manager and the primary contact for helping clients learn more about how these great products can help your practice. As for myself, I run the Product Solutions team, which creates, installs, and supports a portfolio of unique, high-value NextGen add-on applications. So Tom, I'm going to pass it over to you to begin the presentation.
Okay, thanks, Joe. So thank you for joining our webinar today. As Joe mentioned, our webinar today is about accessing your patient records during an unexpected system outage. And here's the agenda that we'll cover today. So you'll learn today why practices invest in this type of solution. We'll talk about our EHR dependencies. You'll gain an understanding of how a solution like this works. We'll also show you the output that's generated by our solution called ChartGuard. I'll give you a brief overview of who iTentive is, and then we'll open it up to questions and answer your questions at the end. So simply, what we're talking about today is simply a business continuity solution that makes sure that your patient charts are available during an EHR downtime situation when you have an outage. We all know that our EHR systems are based on complex technology. We have servers, we have workstations, we have tablets, we have scanners, we have local area networks, we have T1 lines, we have fiber lines, we have VPNs, we have wireless systems, wireless routers, wireless base stations, wireless antennas, we have internet connections, for our hosting sites, we have power systems, we have cooling systems. All of these different types of hardware we have involved in our systems. Behind all of that hardware is also software that's embedded in these systems to run it. So it adds even more complexity to these things. And anytime that we have an issue with one of these components, we can have a downtime situation. So what does that mean? If we have a downtime situation, we have an outage, what can that mean to our practice, to our health center? Well, it can mean that we have an impact of quality of care. It means that we could have lost productivity. It means that we could have lost revenue. So if we are sitting in front of a patient and we don't have access to our patient charts, we're asking questions, and sometimes those questions can drag on for a while because we're trying to figure out what's going on. So the visit ends up being longer than what we normally take, and because visits are taking longer than usual, our productivity can go down. And as a result of that lower productivity, we might be able to lose patients because we may have to turn away patients, or patients may leave because the wait has become longer now. So it has that kind of an impact in that situation. Because we have become so dependent on our technology, it works all the time for us, but when we have an outage, it sets us back a little bit. So periodically I go out and take a look at what type of outages are out there being published. And this is kind of a snapshot of what that is over the past few years. And we all know that systems can come down, and we know have outages, but because technology is up for us most of the time, we kind of put it in the back of our mind and don't think about it. So this slide I have is just to remind us, why outages happen, how they happen, who they happen to, and how long they can happen for. So you can see from this slide that they can happen for a lot of different reasons. We can have hardware failures, we could have software failures, we could have human error, we can have cyber attacks, we can have nature cause them through fires and storms. So construction can happen as well. Construction accidents happen and cause us to have outages. So this, again, just a reminder as to why outages happen and the types of outages that can occur. There are studies out there that have been done as far as what an impact to an outage can cause to a practice or to a health center, and some of them have come up with costs as high as $488 an hour per provider. So it can be quite expensive when there is an EHR system outage. So for a 10 provider practice, and if a practice is down for 4 hours, that can cost as much as $19,520. So it can be quite expensive when a situation like this occurs. Because of we can have situations like this. HIPAA has a clause in it that requires us to have some type of a contingency plan or plan in place to address emergencies or situations like this when we lose access to our systems. So if we have a downtime situation, what does that mean? How do we, what are our options when something like that happens? Well, we could close the practice or we could close the location for a period of time until the system comes back up. We could go to paper charts, but that's becoming harder and harder for us to do nowadays because we're so dependent on our EHR systems. We can implement fully redundant technologies. This can be an expensive endeavor if you take that route, because you'd have to have duplicate redundant servers, redundant networks, redundant data centers, redundant cooling systems or power systems. And when you're getting into that, that can add more costs, but you still have a component that's in place that might fail in the chain along the way. Hosting, people who have their systems on site might consider going to a hosting provider, hosting system, and you still have an issue with that as well with regards to losing an internet connection. You have to get out to the internet, to get to the hosting site, and if you lose access to your internet, you can't get to the hosting site. Another option is to implement a solution that ensures that you're prepared to handle a downtime situation. So the questions that we, as we reflect on what I just talked about, with our systems being complex, that our systems are dependent on many components, that downtime is caused by unexpected events that are beyond our control. What are our options and what our options are when we have a downtime situation? So, the questions we should be asking ourselves is, do I pursue an uptime solution, or do I pursue a solution that enables me to continue on with my business until NextGen comes back online? So am I going to invest money into more hardware, more redundant systems, or should I invest in something that just gets my business by until the NextGen comes back up? Am I going to be reactive or proactive in my clinic's preparedness or my practice's preparedness for a downtime situation? Am I going to wait for a downtime situation to happen and then react to implementing a solution, or am I going to be proactive and do something in advance of my health center or my practice being down? What type of impacts that a NextGen downtime incident can have on our clinic or on our practice? So going back to the impacts that I talked about before, the impacts of quality of care, can I have a quality of care impact? Can I have a revenue type of impact? Can I have a productivity type of impact? Can I have a patient satisfaction type of impact? And then as I identify what those impacts are, what's the significance of that impact to our practice, to our health center, based on the duration of the downtime incident? So if I'm down for an hour, what is the impact on the quality of care? What's the impact of the revenue to the practice? What's the impact to the productivity? What's the impact of patient satisfaction? If I'm down for 4 hours, what's that impact? Is that impact to productivity? What's that impact to revenue? What's that impact to quality of care? What's that impact to the patient satisfaction? So as you're thinking about these questions and coming up with some answers, it helps formulate, what kind of a downtime situation and what you have to do to minimize that. So, and that's the last question. How do I minimize the loss? How do I minimize the disruption when I have a downtime situation? So, what do I do to minimize that, loss? If I'm down for an hour, how would I minimize that disruption? If I'm down to 4 hours, how do I minimize that disruption? So the question really is, these questions, the question shouldn't be, will my clinic or my practice lose connectivity? These are the questions that you should be asking. And just as a side note, we at Attentive have put together a cost analysis for a cost analysis worksheet, I should say, that if you have an interest in receiving, just send me an email or give me a call, or send Joe an email, or give him a call, and we can send out our worksheet that we put together to help you calculate what these costs are, revenue cost losses could be to your organization. So with that being said, we had clients come to us several years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, came to us and asked us to put together a solution for them, a software solution that could help them get by when they had a downtime situation. So we came up with our ChartGuard solution. So it is a solution that is a business affordable business continuity solution. It enables your practice to continue on with seeing patients while NextGen is coming back online. And the way that it happens is we are able to put your clinical records, your patient charts offline in a PDF file. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and Joe's going to take you through the next couple slides.
Terrific. Thank you, Tom. So let's talk about how ChartGuard works and what it does, how it helps the problem of not having access to your NextGen system. Okay, you're without your clinical data via NextGen EHR. So what is ChartGuard? What does it do? ChartGuard runs nightly against your EHR NextGen database, and it looks at your appointment schedule. And from that appointment schedule, it looks at the people coming in for the next several days. What it'll do then is take their clinical information out of the database. It'll create PDF files of that clinical information, and it'll push those PDF files out to each of your locations. This accomplishes two things. First, we're taking the technology complexity out of viewing your clinical data. So on the back end, at night while this is running, we're generating those PDF versions of the charts for the next several days. Now, to access those PDF versions of the charts, it's, in our world, relatively low tech today. It's just a PDF file reader that you need on your computer. Additionally, there could be a computer designated each site with an attached printer where you could put them to paper, and then it would work just like we did a decade ago when we had paper EHR records or paper clinical records. So that's one side of it, using the high tech on the back end and giving you a low technology footprint on the front end to be able to use the charts. One of the things we looked at originally with the initial clients when we were developing ChartGuard is they had situations where the networks would go down often. They were both in storm-prone areas, and this would affect at least one or several of their sites. So they said, you know what, we don't need something that's essentially a backup EHR that's redundant to our current EHR. We just need the clinical data. We need it in an easily readable format, and we need it so it can be used electronically or easily put to paper. So that's step one, the high tech, low tech. Step two is giving you the data where you need it, when you need it. And this is why ChartGuard, each time it runs, pushes out the data to basically a computer at each site. So if we're looking at the graphic here, we can see we have a PC designated in each of the four corners, so each of the four sites, and that PC would be the host for these PDF files. And then again, from that PC, you could either print those to paper, or you could set up a shared folder, as some shops do, and set up icons for emergency access that bring up the shared folder and allow your clinicians to access those PDF files. So what it does conceptually is very straightforward. It pulls data out of NextGen, and we'll see what data that is in just a moment, and we'll take a look at what that looks like in the PDF in a couple moments. But it pulls data out of NextGen, creates these PDF files on a nightly basis, looking at your appointments for several days ahead. And it maintains that window of appointments. So if we're looking at a 3-day window going forward, we'll drop the last day and add the next day. So it's always kind of that 3-day sliding window looking forward. So in a nutshell, that's really what ChartGuard is going to do for you. It's going to give you a low technology way to look at the clinical data, and it's going to give you the data where you need it, when you need it, instead of you having to go out to the internet to get it when your internet connection is down. So what's in the charts? What's in these PDF files? Okay, out of the box, we normally start with a base configuration, and then once people, the clinicians review it, we can tune it from there. So each site gets an appointment listing. So they'll get a PDF file of their appointments, which contains summary data from the NextGen appointment book, so you know who's coming in and when. So that'll be delivered to each NextGen location that's set up in ChartGuard. And then in addition to the appointment listing PDF, you're going to get a PDF file for each patient that's going to be named last name, first name, date of birth, person number, so it's easily found in the file system. Additionally, we can create subfolder hierarchies using either physician, location, physician subgrouping, location subgrouping, so we have a way to kind of narrow down who sees what. But within those patient PDF files, those versions of the chart that we've created as a PDF for you using ChartGuard, you're going to get a patient data sheet, which gives you the basic information, the demographic, the insurance, the employer about the patient. We're going to give you kind of the NextGen module data. Okay, you think about your common modules that you go to in EHR, allergies, immunization, labs and orders, medications, things like that. So those are going to be in there as nice data grids, and we have some ability to tune what's in there for you. Again, when we do the install, we start with the kind of base configuration and we can roll out from there. We also include documents and images. So we can pull in the NextGen EHR documents that you choose into these PDF files, and we can also draw in relevant ICS content into these files too. So it gives you a real nice overview of the patient history. Now, some people ask, well, is it like their whole history? And usually during a downtime situation, we recommend not generating the whole history, just because in that case, you only care about the last several visits that they've come in for. You may not care about that visit from 10 years ago, so why make these files bigger than they need to be? And if you're printing them to paper, why use up more paper? But again, all that is tunable. So as I mentioned, we start with a base configuration and we start generating charts with that as part of the installation process. And then there's the ability to customize how much of what is in the chart. Okay, so you pick how many days of charts you want to generate if you're looking 3 days ahead or 5 days ahead, and we'll work with you on that. Some of that is going to depend on the content of your charts, some of it's going to depend on the size of your database, and some of it's going to depend on the volume of appointments that you do in your system. You also pick the depth of information in the charts. So if you want the last 3 of something, or the last 6 of something, or the last 18 months of data, we can tune all that with you as part of the installation process. So ChartGuard works with a number of different levels of KBMs and specialties in NextGen. If there's something you're doing that is custom and ChartGuard doesn't work with you, it is extensible, so we can quote that out as a custom project for you to pick up other data points that may be relevant for your particular group. And the appointment listing itself can also be customized. If there's some field in there that you use in a special way, maybe it's a user-defined field that you need on the appointment listing, we can certainly trade out real estate and maybe drop another field and pull that one in, or make some of the other fields smaller in that appointment listing. So quick recap, ChartGuard is going to run overnight against your NextGen database. It's going to pull your clinical information, put it nicely into PDF files, 1 per patient. It's going to push it out to each of your locations. So it's there at 10 a.m. when the backhoe down the street doing construction cuts through your fiber line, and you have it there when you need it. And again, it's low technology. It's a PDF file. And again, PDF readers exist for pretty much every computing device out there these days. So I'll turn it back to Tom and he can take you through what this looks like in PDF form.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So as Joe mentioned, we're going to take a look now at what the appointment listing looked like and what the patient chart looks like in PDF format. So let me bring that up here. So this is what the appointment listing looks like. So you'll see that you have the location, the person's coming in to see, who the person's coming in to see, what they're coming in for, what time they're coming in at, so that the front desk knows who's coming in and what they're coming in for. Oops. And then this is what the patient chart looks like in PDF format. So here, the top part is the demographics for the individual. So you'll see the name of the individual, the insurance information as far as primary and secondary insurance. You can scroll down, and now here's the sections that Joe had mentioned. So here's the allergies and the allergy section of the file. And you can scroll further down, and here's the active medications that you can see as well. We also bookmark these pages too. So if you click on the bookmark, rather than scrolling from top to bottom, you can go directly to the section that you want to see. So if you wanted to see social history, you can go to that. If you want to see immunizations, you can go directly to immunizations. If you want to go back to the medications, you just click back to the medications. And then this is the documents, example of the documents that Joe mentioned. So here's an example of the documents that you can see, and then ICS images as well. So this is the the format that you will have that's generated by ChartGuard for each of the patients that are scheduled to come in to your location, and they'll be stored on a PC. Okay, so that's what those look like. That's the two documents that are generated. So we had a client who had purchased ChartGuard several years ago, an orthopedic client in Tennessee, and this is an email that one of their managers sent to us when they had a downtime situation. This particular client now has about 20 locations, and after they purchased ChartGuard, I think it was in June timeframe, and then about 6 months later, they had an outage at two of their largest clinics. So prior to implementing ChartGuard, they typically closed clinics or that were affected by the outage and turned away patients. And with ChartGuard being implemented, they were able to continue to see their patients with the minimal disruption using the appointment listing and the PDF files that I just showed to you. And they were able to keep the clinical side functioning while their IT team was working to bring NextGen back online. So as you can see from the quote, their physicians were quite pleased with the ChartGuard solution. So that's a little bit about ChartGuard, our business continuity solution. Some things to think about, as I mentioned, to think about when you're thinking about a solution, as far as what the causes might be for a downtime situation, an outage, and what the impacts might be as well. A little bit about us and who we are as far as Itentive. We were founded in 2003. We have 20 plus years of experience with NextGen. We have 40 some employees in the company, most of which are consultants that travel from practice to practice, health center to health center, working with the individual organizations to improve business process, improve workflows, improve reporting, help you improve decision making as well. If you take the 2003 into 20 years, they do not add up, and the reason for that is back in the late 90s and early 2000s, when the business mantra back then was focus on what you do best and outsource the rest, Itentive was started out as the IT department for a medical organization, and the leaders of the medical organization were going to outsource the IT group, and the leader of the IT group said, well, if you want to do that, what we'd like to do is form our own company and provide services back to you. So they agreed to do that, and from that point forward, we've worked with over 350 to 400 clients that use NextGen, and during this time frame, we've become a strategic partner with NextGen as well. We do generate our revenue through 5 service lines, if you will. We have consulting service line, like I mentioned, consultants who travel from health center to health center, works practice to practice, working on workflows and business process, revenue cycle, consulting, compliances, and optimization as well. We have a group of developers that can develop customized templates. We have in Joe's group a group of developers that develop our productivity tools, and of which ChartGuard is one. We also have a group of technology folks that can provide IT managed services, meaning that we can support your desktops, your laptops, your printers, your local area networks. We also have our own data center, so we can do complete hosting in our data center as well. We can provide help desk support, and we are a reseller, so we can resell software as well. Here's just a look at some of our other productivity tools that Joe's group has developed. A refund manager product that automates the credit balance handling and refund check processing within an organization. Our billing manager, multi-encounter billing manager product that allows organizations that can enter in multiple encounters for a single patient visit, saving time on the billing side. We have developed a clinical interface for Phreesia that allows you to update clinical data. And then we developed unapplied deposit manager that allows you to efficiently and effectively manage copay dollars, deposit money, unapplied dollars, and money taken in advance of services. So just a little blurb on some of our other products as well. So what we'll do now is we'll open it up to questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and enter in the question box.
All right, Tom, I see several here. I'm going to take a couple of them because they're more technical in nature.
Okay.
All right. The first one is, I see you work with the appointment schedule. How do you handle walk-ins for, I'm guessing like ER or immediate care type situations? And there are 2 modes ChartGuard can run in. The primary mode is appointment-based, where it's looking at that. But the other mode is what we have, what we call encounter-based. And what that'll do is we can generate your active patient history up front and put that at the remote site, so it's there for walk-ins. And then each night, whoever had an encounter that day will get their information updated in the PDF. So we have clients that lean heavily toward one model or the other, and we have some clients that do both, where we set up a ChartGuard engine in appointment mode and another one in encounter mode to handle the sites that have the walk-ins. The next one is, what if we're hosted by a third party? ChartGuard works either way. Normally we'll coordinate with the third party, even if it's NextGen. And you're hosted on either the legacy systems or the newer AWS systems. So we've installed ChartGuard on those systems for other clients. So that is available even if you're hosted. Again, if you're hosted by another NextGen partner, we can work with them too. We've done a number of those over the years. So hosting is, we actually encourage it if you're hosting, because then you're fully dependent on the network at all your sites to get to your EHR. Last one is for custom templates in NextGen. Do we have to basically pay you to customize ChartGuard each time? A way around that is to generate documents with the data in your templates, and then we can simply pull those documents into ChartGuard. And that way you're in control of your own future. If you change the template and change the document, it's all good. We just continue to pull in that document. And the last one is, Tom, this one's for you. How is it priced?
It's priced, so we have 3 components to our pricing. We have a license fee, which is a one-time fee. We have an installation, configuration, and training fee. That's a one-time fee. And then we have an annual software maintenance fee, and that's your only recurring fee. It's priced on size of the organization as far as the number of practices in an organization. So the price can range from $12,000 up to $30,000 depending on the size of the organization. So you can send me get in contact with me, and I can work with you on giving you the pricing information specifically for your situation.
All right, great. And we had one more question roll in, which is, how do you recommend using this product for a behavioral health agency with community-based case managers who don't utilize appointments in practice management? What we can do is we can write the query, we can do a customization to build the query to pull the charts on some other criteria that you have in the database. Obviously, there's some way the case managers know that they're going to go out and see certain patients. So we could sit down with you and figure out what the triggers would be to generate the charts for that. And, again, this would be great for that because you could just take these PDFs with you instead of having to try and remote back into EHR when you're out in the field and you may or may not have good cellular internet access. So that's when we can definitely investigate further. Okay, I think that's it for our questions today. Again, we appreciate everyone taking the time and attending this. Tom, I'll turn it back to you for any closing notes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for taking the time to go through our webinar today. As you see on the screen, that's our contact information for myself and Joe. So if you have any other questions that come up as you're thinking about this, want any more information, send me an email, make a phone call to myself or to Joe, and we'll get the information that you need. If you want to have a more specific discussion as how ChartGuard would fit within your organization, how it would be deployed within your organization, we can have that discussion as well, specifically as it pertains to you. So don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Again, thank you very much for spending a few minutes with us today, and we'll wrap up the webinar and let you have the rest of your afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.